Well, I found it a lot easier to do it two people. One that handled the props and the other one that does
Right now.
handle the meeting.
Okay, so we're here on Saturday, on the weekend of January 20th and 21st, looking for a Father's Day. I don't know if you guys do Father's Day out there. I think Canada does Father's Day. Oh, good. Manu does Father's Day. How about it, Fred? Do you guys in China do Father's Day?
I don't know about Chinese people. I do
Oh,
Father's Day with
good. So we're all doing Father's Day tomorrow, how or today or whenever it is. So congratulations. All righty, here we go. I guess we haven't got this resolved, but tonight I'll go ahead and start out. Fred's going to be conducting meetings, so I'll start with an opening, pass it off, and then we'll end up with Fred, who's conducting the meeting today on Programming the Universe. How am I feeling? Well, it's a Father's Day weekend, and I've had to coordinate with. I got my daughter coming in from New York, which is kind of fun, and but she's got plenty of stuff going on, and so we've finally connected at 1:30 tomorrow. I got to get my girls together. I got three of my four girls are in town tomorrow, and my son is roaming around somewhere, and I'll probably connect with him tomorrow night. And I'm looking forward to our reading. I'm getting back into my book, and I'm going down many rabbit holes trying to see if I want to pursue them and what I want to make out of them. And so I've had a busy weekend and had fun on the weekend so far, and looking forward to our continuation of Programming the Universe. Manu, how are you feeling, and what do you anticipate for today?
While anticipating meeting with, am I muted? No.
Say what? Go ahead, Manu. How you
Yeah,
feeling?
I feel I feel good off my call and anticipating meeting with my sons this afternoon for lunch on a Father's Day. And then what I expect is a good ride here, you know. So Richard, how do you feel? What do you expect?
I'm feeling pretty good. Coming up on Father's Day, I have one daughter and granddaughter on a cruise into the Mediterranean right now, so they're somewhere along the coast of Greece or thereabouts. And another daughter who is getting settled in Victoria, having made a move last week. And we're heading out on Tuesday to join her and be part of the celebration of life of her husband who died in January. And so it'll be bittersweet in many ways. Um, so yeah, so we're getting ready to drive out. So we'll leave on Tuesday. That uh, will affect my Wednesday morning attendance maybe, and on next Saturday night will be the evening of the actual celebration. So I don't know what my availability would be, but it's just to let you guys know um, of what's coming up this next week. Um, Steve, how are you feeling? And oh, you've
I
already done that.
shared.
Yeah.
Oh, Lee is trying to join us right now. Lee is connecting to audio. Join with computer audio.
Otherwise, over to you, Fred.
Join with computer audio.
let's wait for this. She's got audio difficulties. She's got a new earphones and the Bluetooth is not connecting. That's the reason why you were waiting outside the meeting for a few minutes. Steve was trying to solve the problem. You sent, were you in Beijing?
You that this is not happening.
Richard, you sent me this,
Yes. Well, I visited Beijing years ago, but the suicide prevention training work that my group has been involved in for the last 40 years, they're now spreading some of the training mostly out of Australia, but into Singapore and Malaysia and China. We've been in and out of China several times. Um, the training seems to have become kind of centered in these international schools, so that students who are attending the international schools in Malaysia, um, Vietnam, and China are picking up on uh, introducing this 2-day workshop to the students and the faculty members.
Have you conducted the workshop yourself in China?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Have you attended it?
Not in China, no.
Not in China? Because I'm asking you this because it's not preeminent nowadays, but traditionally, Chinese beliefs are that if you interfere with somebody's karma, with somebody's death, save somebody's life, or prevent something bad to happen to somebody, then you become responsible to their lives. And so this is not really something that you're looking forward to. You do not voluntarily interfere with somebody's happenstances in life. So if somebody wants to kill himself, well, it's his decision, right? That's but it's not preeminent anymore. It used to be a lot more than that, to the point that when I was working for a large company, before I went to China the first time, the recommendation was, if you see some people having some issues together, do not intervene. Just move along. Not your problem, not your business. Let's move along. Which
Yes,
is which may be excessive corporate prudence, but
yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to share this
Well,
with you.
that's very helpful because we started out in Hong Kong mainly years ago, and then it's spread around to some of the other areas. But we've been really focused on cultural and indigenizing issues, and so we've had a complete indigenization in Norway with their culture and language. We've done it in northern Canada with the indigenous people in the north, and in Australia with the indigenous people. We worked with a university research grant for about 5 years before it was all ready to be introduced, and now it's run by the indigenous people themselves. And we've really wanted to pay attention to the cultural factors and how you build them in as an adaptation around a core curriculum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It has changed. I viewed more than a few videos of people in China saving other people from certain deaths in car accidents, and in even stopping them from jumping from bridges and all that. And there was no mention of any cultural issues with that. So it probably has changed. Anyway, thanks
Yeah,
for
I
sharing.
think the main thing that's happening probably because these students are in international schools, so they're in prep schools, and I suspect as young adults they're experiencing the kind of pressures and stresses that Anne often talks about in terms of what parents want of their kids and what kids are trying to learn to enter the adult world on their own and with their own sort of lives. So, um, and I think in being in a prep school too, you're probably expected to go further and further into your higher education experiences, whether it's within that country or likely wanting to get to a place, a foreign country, whether it's a place like the UK or Canada or the US, would be my guess anyway. That's what the international schools are all about in many respects.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Thanks, Richard. Joe, how are you feeling today? And what is your expected takeaway?
Yeah, I'm feeling okay. My throat's bothering me a little bit. So, but overall, it's good to see everybody. My expectations to keep, kind of pushing through the book and really, I don't have any specific expectations yet with this book. When starting out. So, as we go through it, I think that, I'll get more of a feel for it. I'd read a little bit, just the intro as we went through last week, but we'll see. We'll see where it leads. I'm excited to see where it leads. And so I'm doing well. Who hasn't gone yet? Lee, how are you feeling? What would you like to take away from today?
Hopefully you guys can hear me. I've had a lot of problems. Okay, good. I am excited about today. It's been a good day for being able to listen to what Steve has written partially. You can only go through a little bit at a time. And 4 pages has taken up a lot of his time. And I have been able to listen to it and do a little bit of input. And hopefully I can do the same with this new book. I've read some of it and am excited about it. I am really interested at finding out more information from all of you. And Steve, are you the next one or?
I've already gone.
Okay, then Fred, how are you feeling? And what are you wanting to get out of today?
Thank you, Lee. I'm feeling pretty good. Very excited to keep going with this new book. And my expectation is that this book turns the lights on, same like it did last week to everybody, because that was really a wonderful feedback about the interest in this book and how it explains things. So we're on page 13. I spent half an hour to put some page numbers on the book. Have you received the new version of it?
I didn't check, and I've got the old one loaded in to hang on.
I sent it via email to everybody.
Yeah,
And
I didn't get any email, and I've got the old one loaded in. I know exactly where we are. The page is 11. Oh, no, it's page 15 in the PDF I had before. What page do you have for today? You had page 13?
I have page 13, yes.
The PDF file says page
It's
15.
it's not the PDF numbering. It's page numbering. I started at the introduction.
My book, information processing, is on page 11 on my book, which is here. So I don't know. Let me check for that book, though, in that email.
Yeah, but it's different because it's an ebook that's been retransformed into a PDF, so that the page numbering was not going to work. Are we at information processing revolutions, or are we at language of nature?
We're at information processing revolutions, where we left off last week in my.
Okay, so that's page 15.
Good. That's page 15. So I must be using the right one then, because that's page 15. So let me go to there.
If you have page numbers on the PDF you have, that's the correct one.
Yeah.
The other one did not have any pages.
Wonderful. So I'm glad we got that. All right, if we're ready to go, I'll load it up. You be the boss and you make sure you share what's going on.
Is that okay with everyone if I keep reading?
Yes.
It's good to share reading, Fred. I found when I'm conducting a meeting, I can watch people's reaction and kind of listen to what's going on and see if somebody gets left behind. But if you want to read, I have no issues with it at all.
Well, you will help me with that.
Okay.
I mean, with observing people's reaction.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, information processing revolutions. The underlying ability of the universe to process information has given rise throughout history to a series of information processing revolutions. We are in the midst of such a revolution now, one driven by the rapid advance of the electronic computing technology embodied by Moore's law. Quantum computers represent the avant-garde of this revolution. But exciting and tumultuous as it is, ours is neither the first nor the greatest revolution in information processing. Moore's law is the doubling of the density of transistors on chips every year and a half or 2 years, which
18 months.
allowed the increase in processing power of the computers.
You know, Fred, we could do a whole thing on Moore's law because there's another law besides Moore's law. I could find it if I did some research that works on production, and somehow mass production of these things also affects on a production basis.
Wright's law.
Moore's law. What's that?
Wright's law.
Wright's law talks about production, how production affects the efficiency, and kind of explains what Moore's law said theoretically. It actually shows a production raising, and then this quantum computer issue is doing its own thing much more rapidly. I wonder if we could make Moore's law as an issue, but it's not there. It's just to say chips double and memory doubles every 18 months. That was the basic Moore's law. But there have been much more refinements, and the trend continues, which is compounding, which is amazing. So I don't know.
The trend, indeed, what you say is true. The trend continues because now the density of transistors on chips is a synthetic measure.
Yeah.
It is equivalent. Like when Huawei recently said they have 1.4 nanometer density. 1.4 nanometer is the distance between logic gates. They do not have 1.4 nanometer, but they have the equivalent of 1.4 nanometer density because they have the chips on several layers. So instead of having a flat surface, they have put several layers on top of it. And everybody does that. Everybody does that. The Moore's law is not just a physical I mean, the limit of the size of the gates is not just a physical limit due to how small you can print engrave some circuits. It's also that as the gates get smaller and are supposed to either allow electrons to pass through or stop electrons to pass through, you have quantum effects. And then you have quantum tunneling, which is electrons go through even the gate is closed, and then it doesn't work anymore. So it's a rather complicated stuff that's going on now. But Moore's law, the synthetic Moore's law still keeps going. Yes, that's correct. Even the US attempted to stop China from going further ahead by sanctioning everybody and making it impossible for China to procure very intense ultraviolet machines made in Holland. They went around that. So there's no, at this moment, China is boosted by sanctions, I would say, because they're finding ways around sanctions that give them better innovation around this.
And sanctions, some of those sanctions were listed. People like Huang and Musk said, look, if you don't give some of these chips to China, they're going to develop their own technology. Let's let them keep using ours. And so some of that has loosened up a little bit too, Fred.
Yeah, I think China will develop its own technologies because they do not want to get into a situation where the US can decide whether they can develop or not. That's
very true.
That's definitely what
There's
they
a
do.
very good article on the and I haven't finished going through it. Essentially, in the Economist this week that speaks to this very point.
Okay.
Yeah, it's worth at some point exploring. But
Is it
I won't go
is it
into
behind a
detail.
paywall?
I can get it to the group.
Thank you. I will appreciate that. And when this book was written 20 years ago now, the need for quantum computing to overcome the end of the road for Moore's law was somewhere in the horizon, 20, 40 years away. This is getting a lot more pressing, a more pressing issue now, especially that the need for fast calculations has increased with AI and other things too.
And I just saw a great video on how they were pulling multiple layers of in those chips, like one atom apart, and using a special kind of ultraviolet lasers to code in on these multiple layers. It's a new technology, it hasn't been done, but it'll boost, it'll be amazing too. So there's tons of technology on the rise here. Things are just exploding.
Those
video, damn it.
those engraving machines, they do the smallest things that we can really do at a mass scale. And they are some of the biggest machines ever built, ever conceived. They're the size of building that the size of a stadium. It's that's one machine doing this doing these things. It's millions of moving parts.
Yeah, am I wrong in thinking that the Moore's law is just an application of the inverse square one?
Of the what?
The inverse square law.
Inverse square law, Newton's inverse square law about radiation.
It's more than radiation. Inverse square law is has to do with spatial whatever propagation rather than linear. And more just in the chip making, observe that that was applying and introduce time into it.
I think they move in the same way. The question is, inverse square law has been discovered in radiation, in gravity, and stuff like this. So that's part of a certain number of phenomena that happen in the universe. Moore's law, it's not a law. It's not observing a law of the universe. It's observing a law of. It's observing.
Not a law. It's not a
it's
law
not
of
even a
nature.
law. It's observing some technological capability and the pace of progress around that. So I don't think it's related to what the universe of
well,
laws of physics.
Topologically speaking, though, in defense of Manu here, I think topologically speaking, we don't understand what mind is about and how things grow. I think there might be some basis, some kind of topological theoretical basis. So, Manu, I think it's a good
I
question.
think it's really
Whether we'll ever
interesting.
get the answer to the question.
I think it's an application of it. I didn't say it's the law.
Yeah, I agree. Topologically, I don't think it's a crazy idea.
Okay.
I'm going to Google and see what it says.
Can you share this inverse square law prop in the chat, please?
I will. I'll be glad to do
Thank
that.
you.
Going back to the book.
Yep.
Cool. So is the book
let's
there
start
now?
reading
Yeah, there
again.
we go.
Just as great a revolution was the invention of zero, the number zero was invented by the ancient Babylonians and passed down through the Arab world. The use of zero to represent powers of 10, 1 0, 1 0 0, 10, 100, 1000, etc., distinguishes our Arabic number system from number systems such as that of the Romans, which used distinct symbols for powers of 10. X for 10, C for 100, M for 1000. Though it might seem only a slight change in the form of numerical representation, the invention of Arabic numbers has had a significant impact on mathematical information processing, not the least of which was the improvement in ease and transparency of commercial transactions. If the folks at Enron had been able to do their shady accounting in Roman numerals, they might have gotten away with it.
That's interesting.
That's dating this book.
It really
And,
is dating its book. This book. I mean, I remember that like it was yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
But
Enron.
yeah, I mean, because it ruined my life. Because essentially my first job was at KPMG, second job really, but was looking at the internal controls around financial reporting as a result of Enron, and it was such a overreaction to the scandal that many small businesses were having to pay a price for basically regulators going too far, and they had to document, procedures that proved to be very costly to them, but also to the auditors. They had to collect that. They had to go ahead and collect all that information. So, now people that were like Skilling and Ken Lay were not held accountable. They claimed ignorance. So now management had to sign off on everything. And that was like, so all the internal controls around everything had to be essentially airtight. But it really didn't, obviously it didn't do what it was intended to do either. You still had subsequent scandals that existed, not exactly the same as Enron, but the whole 2008 crisis, for example, still occurred. But it's an example of overreacting to a scandal. It does date the book.
Thank you for that. Can we do a divergence towards Enron? Because I've got plenty of things to say about that. I don't know if it's appropriate.
Is everybody Enron?
Okay, let's talk about Enron. Enron was very specific in the sense that the scam was hidden in the size of it. They created so many offshore entities that it was nearly impossible to see the trees from the forest. The forest was there, nobody could see it, because all you could do as an auditor was to see the trees and look at what the tree was doing, and then link some connections with nearby trees. But the scale of it was absolutely, I would say, wonderful in terms of the way they assembled it. In the late 90s, I was a student of derivatives, financial derivatives, following the 1987 crisis. And at the break between classes, we were smoking outside and discussing, and we invented Enron. We were talking about creating offshore entities, and so many of them that it would overwhelm anybody supposed supposed to keep to keep tabs on that.
Well, part of it was
in so many different countries. So you instead of having, okay, I'm going to have 5 offshore entities, you would create 50,000 offshore
Right.
entities based in 20 different countries, using each 20 banks. So suddenly you've got an explosion in the numbers of entities, and you would divide those entities, 25,000 on one side, 25,000 on the other side, and have them trade against each other. And each would take a very specific position in the trade. Either a trade that's going to go up or a trade that's going to go down. And you would do this, and you would do this with clients' money and a little bit of your own money in order to seed these things. And once it's seeded, client money will roll in, and you would only advertise to the clients the entities that would make money. Until the moment you decide that, okay, I have enough capital in order to trade for myself, you take all the clients' money, you trade, you take both sides of the trades in each direction against others, not against yourself, against others. And then the entities that fail, that got the wrong side of the trade, you just close them down, the bad bank, and the client, you become insolvable. And the other one, you collect the money as fast as you can, you close everything down, you disappear. So that's basically what Enron was doing. In theory, we had invented Enron at that. That was
I mean,
that was
part
like
of this,
10 years before Enron started, I guess. Yes.
I mean, but part of the fundamental problem that existed that was they attempted to rectify was the fact that the auditor was also collecting on consulting fees in addition to being the auditor. So in that particular instance, so not only that, they were incentivized to look the other way. And that was really where, now it's worth mentioning that it was a 9-0 decision that Arthur Andersen was essentially, even though it was kind of, completely, went under as a result of the scandal. They won their case at the Supreme Court 9-0. So they weren't vindicated by any stretch of the imagination. They just shredded the evidence, and the evidence that was used by prosecutors wasn't necessarily as damning as everybody implied that it would be. But nonetheless, it is. I think it's really one of those examples where a lot of people were, kind of blaming the system for failing, and it had, but it was also a breakdown in fundamental ethics. And that's one of those things that where you start to see this is what happens when you have people that actually just do things where their intentions are far different, like as far as their what they're saying. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Manu has his hand up, but there's a lot of other deeper things there too that as well went on with it, because there was also subsequent what is it, MCI was right after that. So
You complete?
Manu, go.
I'm complete. Sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you. Manu, go ahead.
When I listen to the discussion here, it is something that has existed. This debate has been every time, you go back thousands of years, it existed. Our capacity to reason is linked to the digit, to our capacity to derivate, to cut. Derivation. That's why you call it a derivation. Is that we observe things, forms, and then we remember parts, or we make parts of it, and then we try to put them together. But the laws are those of whole. And the only way that we understand things effectively is to be able to learn to rhythm with those two. When I say rhythm, is that it doesn't mean that applying one against the other. It is dancing with, knowing the time and timing of when to apply here and there, or when to take them together. And the example that Fred made of Enron, of that Joe was talking about, is always that I lost money. You know, I was young. I lost a lot of money in the Enron and the dot-com era, you know, speculating my own money, you know, and evaporating it away. But it taught me quite serious lessons. That did not prevent me from losing money again on silver at the end of, you know, in 2008-10. You know, I believe that silver will go parabolic. And I held
I
on
hope
too
you
long
kept
to
it the
it,
past
and
2
then
years.
it just
I hope-
melted.
I hope you kept it the past 2 years.
Oh, no, I'm selling. Like I'm selling.
It
You
was
know,
up
now.
100%
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, but I'm selling. I'm not getting into the same trap. This is just to say we're in a world where there are so many variables. And then we should be humble enough to accept that in spite of our going in one direction in a very powerful way, it is subject to the whole laws that will humble it one day if you don't pay attention.
Mm.
But let not be too smart by half. That's my caution. And I've paid the price. When I'm saying like this, you know, it's very subjective. I have paid the price. I paid a serious price on it. So thank you. That was my intervention. And then again, on the Moore's law and the inverse square law, the AI response is just overwhelming. You know, like it is a direct application. It's actually the application in the chip making of the inverse square law. It's not a fuzzy relationship. It is a direct application. That's what AI says. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Manu. I've got my hand up. Two things about your silver. You want to play what and when. You need to choose one. If you try to play what and when at the same time, you have to be right on the what is going to go up and when it's going to happen. And if you play with leverage, you're going to die each time. You have to choose one and play without leverage. Then silver went up 4 times. It went from 33 to 121, 33 last June to 121 last January or February. January 21st, I think. Then it went down 50%, but it's still up. It's still doubled. Regarding ethics, Enron is just the canary. The ethics breakdown in the US is shown by Enron, Martha Stewart, LTCM in 1997. The breakdown of ethics.
Are you talking about long-term capital management when you say
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
That was a real breakdown too. That was quants overestimating too. That was
they were betting against Russian debt.
Yeah, exactly. They were betting because they had nukes.
But the breakdown of ethics is, in my opinion, can be sourced to the breakdown of the Soviet Union. Soviet Union kept the US honest. And after its fall in 1991, the US just went completely with the king of the world, that we can do whatever, there's no accountability and all that. And it's all visible in the Enron, LTCM, Martha Stewart, the 2008 crisis and the subsequent crisis. It's also completely visible with 9/11, the subsequence of 9/11, the attack of 6 or 7 Muslim countries with no reason whatsoever. Afghanistan was attacked. Nothing to do with 9/11. Even Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. That was the people that were in the planes were from Saudi Arabia. and so on. So the multipolar world that is emerging now is a really good reaction to that, and it's the re-establishment of a counterpower to that of the US that went completely haywire after the 90s, my opinion.
It's an interesting, I don't know. It's an interesting progression because I'll just say this. I think that we've become, I mean, we had the SNL crisis, which I'm sure, Steve knew everything about that. But then I think that it's an interesting example of how we become completely desensitized. As in the 80s, something that would be considered a junk bond, that was essentially, obviously deemed less than investment grade by a lot of the rating agencies. And, when it came to the 2008 crisis, the rating agency were rating everything AAA, essentially, all the financial instruments. And the point being is that, what was once considered not to be investment grade and was now, when it came, and junk bonds were associated with companies, whereas the financial instruments were just packaging mortgages. And so there's a huge distinction there. But they were what they were called, what we were calling junk bonds and things along those lines in the 80s, and what we were in 2008 calling AAA. I think it just shows you that what Manu was saying is that there's an element of paying attention and really kind of focusing on what is actually going on, but more importantly, just how we started to view leverage. That's a really important point of that whole. I mean, we've become desensitized to it, and I think in some ways that's even price increases in the way we think about them. And that this gets back to this idea of exponential, and linear growth that we were talking about a moment ago. And so it's all interrelated, and it really does have an impact on our ability to predict. And so anyway, I think that this is one of the things that have a lot of people worried about where the U.S. is today versus, some people will point and say historically there's been these types of bubbles, but there are some fundamental issues that now exist that are different from the past, and I think China actually sees that. No, right.
Sorry, what do you say about China?
I think China's very well aware of some of the systemic issues that we're facing today.
I think so.
And versus, that it's a very different, they're very different from the Soviet Union. And
Oh, yeah.
also, and I also think, I mean, they also studied perestroika very, very closely. And that comes back to understanding leverage as well.
Yeah, the difference is that Soviet Union has proven that communism doesn't work, and China has proven that communism does. So now we're back to square one. We have to do it all again. That's
well, it's a different brand of communism. It embraces a certain amount of capitalism, and that's where a lot of criticism has come in. Is like it's a monetary capital.
Yes. One is very rigid. The other one is very adaptable and completely pragmatic.
And that's the fundamental difference that people don't. Yeah, right there is one is the fundamental difference is that the Soviet Union did not adapt. And the other thing is the Chinese people are actually much more subscribing to the system itself. Whereas the Soviet Union was across many countries, which is a little bit, more challenging. So once Poland fell, then it was obviously an issue.
Yes. Steve,
Yeah.
are you done, Joe? Yeah, Steve,
Yeah, I'm done,
please.
sorry.
Yeah, I have made I posted in there a really cool chart on Moore's Law, showing how Moore's Law worked. And plus I went, Joe mentioned Wright's Law. So I put a thing about Wright's Law in there along with Moore's Law. And Wright's Law is based on Theodore Wright, who is not one of the Wright brothers of American aviation. He was involved in production stuff. And so there was a cool explanation there, and thought I would just put that in, and I'm complete. Ready to go back to reading if you are.
Yeah, thank you. Before we start reading, can you imagine if we all had a powerful quantum computer, how many async violations we could do before we get caught?
I tell you, I'm pretty, it's pretty interesting between your friends coming up with the Enron scandal before Enron 10 years, and now you have the quantum computers to do it. It makes me a little nervous, actually.
Yeah, let's put some capital.
That
together.
happened a lot faster than we thought. It's like,
But
we should stop the recording.
Go ahead, Manu.
I'm just saying, I don't know if you guys are seeing it in the US and in China, but I see it in Africa and in South Africa in particular, that youth's energy is being siphoned away.
Yeah.
It's been, people get crazy. Oh, today it's AI this, AI that. I saw guys, I'm talking about in the past 10 years, losing everything, abandoning everything they were doing.
Yeah.
First for cryptos. This is life.
Yeah.
And then they're jumping, the same guys are jumping today into AI with the same, they don't think. People, what the problem to me of our generations and generations before us and generation after us is that we find it difficult somewhat to think, and we refuse behaviorally to think. We don't want to think. That is, thinking is, as Becky says, the ability to how will I say, to distinguish things and sort them out and choose those where they put on the back burner and those that you consider now, timing as our friend will be saying, Kelly will be saying, and then using that to try to grasp your environment inductively and practically. That's why we say always building artifacts, to test what we think holds according to the law. Because remember that we are in the law, in the generalized law or general law. We don't know the law. We practice it with confidence. We are in it, part of it. It's a part wanting to make sense of a whole. And we do that. We have to learn and constrain ourselves to progress with that. And it's difficult. We don't like to spend. We like easiness. That was my intervention. I'm seeing it every day again.
Well, I'm glad I let you go before me, because I was going to actually hold my comment until the takeaways, except that we started feverishly building on a certain point. I just want to reaffirm Manu's point about this derivatives and about people being too smart. And I think that there is a big issue here about values and what is value. And then somehow we capitalize. There's a great principle. I teach this when I do marketing, is the value added proposition. When am I actually adding value? And too many times the adding value is just a scheme to make more money, and it's being too smart, and it's going away from where value really is. And So I just wanted to say that because you know, I can add value, but many times when I add value, there's simply a factor of greed involved, and it's not really adding any value. So I vote for Manu on that. There are time when derivatives can get out of hand, and it's time to be too smart. Let's come back to basic value. And if more people were like, Nikola Tesla and Schauberger, and maybe even Seth Lloyd here, I don't know. We need to get further in the book, but we need to come back to value and humanity and not being smart, but being present to reality. First of all, I'm complete.
Joe?
Yeah, no, I mean, and
Thank you,
I
Stephen.
think the value is actually, it's much more. It's like there's an element of that ethics is, to me, always the overarching issue. And whenever you see these types of breakdowns, it's it's individuals that that are willing to win at all costs, and that's where it doesn't matter how well thought out a system can be. If you don't have people abiding by those rules, then forget it. But the book itself talks about information processing revolutions, right? And essentially that's what we're experiencing right now. And so, and that's an interesting point. We're processing information at a rate that we've never done before. And in that process, to your point, I think, this is why, thinkers like Bucky are so important right now, is that we're abandoning certain fundamental principles in that process. And so then we're fooled by the fact that we can process more information, which is an incredible tool, don't get me wrong, and can be extremely dangerous as well. But I do think the danger is very serious. And so we need to be mindful of that. But I do think that some of the utopian predictions that are, being done about AI in particular, are people are overzealous. And I think that's because there are just limits to the physical systems that we're currently in. And, so we're able to process information, we'll be able to do things more efficiently, but, to think that everything's going to happen overnight, I think is a mistake. So to the book's point, we're in an information processing revolution. And we need to consider that. But fundamentally, I do think that there are some principles that we have to keep coming back to that can really determine what the underlying value that's actually going to be delivered out of that process. Where I think it's fundamentally dangerous, and I've said this in the past, is that, basically directly related to the military, because that's where I think that there could be real issues, because then it's optimization with the tools that can actually do a lot of damage.
We left off with Roman numerals and Enron. We're continuing from the origins.
Thank
I
you.
do believe. Yeah.
Thank you. The origins of the Arabic number systems are indistinguishable from the origins of its accompanying technology, the abacus, a simple, robust, and powerful calculating machine that consists of rows of movable beads mounted on sticks. The first row corresponds to ones, the second to tens, the third to hundreds, and so on. An abacus with just 10 rows can perform calculations ranging in the billions. even everybody knows what an abacus is.
Yeah. I think
There's
we all know an abacus, right?
okay. There's two types. There's a Chinese type and the Japanese type. Would you like to see both
I
of them?
didn't know that. I didn't know about the Japanese stuff.
Okay. Let me see if I can show you.
Go ahead, Manu, while he's pulling that up.
Manu, go ahead while I
Yeah, I just
change my
wanted to
camera.
show off that I'm one of those guys that learn calculus at a very early age. First, primary school with abacus. We truly used to do it, like this, and then put the number and fill the table.
Cool.
And then I use the sliding rule. I think it's only Steve that will remember that.
I remember the rule.
I was taught
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. And the sliding rule, when we're passing high school exam, you couldn't use the calculator. There were calculators. There were some.
Yeah.
Well-off students could have calculators. But you could use it off the exam. It wasn't admitted in the exam room. You couldn't. You have to have your sliding rule. So if you couldn't know in physics, for example, if you didn't know that pi square is 10, you were dead.
Cool.
So you couldn't make those roundings to say, okay, here in this formula, pi square, is very close to 10.
Yeah. Lee, did you want to say something?
Is it upside down? No, it should be the
No,
right way.
it's the right way.
Okay.
My
Last time I changed my camera. Okay, this is a Chinese type.
Hey, Fred.
Yes.
Lee was about to share, and you're.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Lee. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I'd like to see it
But
all
you were going to
because
say something about slide rules or something.
yes, my brother used them all the time.
Yeah.
I had a calculator. I still own one. And he would use this far faster than the calculator.
The slide rule or the abacus? Oh, the
Well,
slide.
he had the both slide rule and the abacus.
Cool.
Wow.
You complete?
Yes, I am. Thank
Okay,
you.
Go ahead, Fred.
The slide rule, interestingly, is the next step before the calculator. You've got the abacus, then you've got the slide rule. And the slide rule is the result of the discovery of logarithms, which suddenly allowed to do multiplications by doing additions. That's the power of logarithm. So this is a Chinese one. It has 5 beads at the bottom and 2 beads at the top. And the way you use it is you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, or 10. So, and then you decide which one is the 1,000 to 1,100, 10 and 1, and then you can have after the decimal point. The big problem we have with the Chinese one is that there's several ways to express the same number. This is 5. This is 5. This is 10. This is 10. And the Japanese have removed the redundancy in the representation of numbers with this one here. Can you see it? I need a...
Yeah.
This is a Japanese one. It's called Soroban. I'm going to put in the chat Soroban. If I can find my tools. Soroban. Which is also used in Chinese schools now and in Hong Kong and in Singapore. And so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's no more, there's a unique way of expressing each number.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So there's only 4 at the bottom. So this is much, I find it more pleasant to use than the Chinese one that has several ways of representing the same number. And
Yes.
they learn this at school here, and they have competitions of mental calculus, and you see them. You remove the abacus, and you see them do the movement with their fingers, and they are calculating with their fingers. Their brain is not engaged,
Wow.
consciously engaged. They do the calculation with their fingers, and they write down the number, because their fingers are using an imaginary abacus, and
Yes.
that's how they do their calculation. And
Wow.
they're really, really, really fast. They're faster than somebody typing on a standard calculator.
Mm-hmm.
But that is an exponential or the logarithmic scale order jump, an advantage to somebody using a calculator, because you are in calculator just linear. This guy is jumping scale. I mean, the Japanese, for example, to do say they in one stroke, they say, let's just talk about A times B, not BA and AB, you know, distinguishing them because it is a reflexive relationship, the multiplication. So let's just use one and understand more general. So in the power of the word, just one word, you are going, multiplying or dividing everything by 2. That's 100% efficiency. If you use what Fred say, if you were using 100 words where they were repeats, AB and BA, every time you had to express that extensively, and you no more need them, just by a simple rule to recognize that A and B equal B and A. So therefore, let's take away B and A, and every time that we say A and B, we say A and B or B and A. That is 100% efficiency.
I think that's what AI is doing. I think that AI is creating these tokens. And they take concepts and create a token. Go ahead, Fred.
No, go ahead, keep going.
Well, I mean, I'm just assuming because I've been listening all about these tokens and how many tokens are generated and how important it is for people using AI to use tokens. And I've been contemplating how I process information in my own mind. And basically, when I hook concepts together, I create a token for those hooked concepts. And so I'm just speculating based on my own experience of what I've heard about tokens and how my brain thinks. Go ahead, Fred.
I forgot what I wanted to say.
Well, I was talking about, was it true token?
No, it's nothing to do with tokens, but I was very interested in what you were saying, and I lost track of what I was thinking. That's okay. I'll come back later. It was, I don't think it was very important anyway. Okay, anybody else?
No, but I'll tell you what, that abacus machine was really interesting because it even brought me back to even how the idea, I was just looking up how, essentially the Arabic world and the use of 0, essentially coming to even using the number 10.
And what blew me away was Fred's idea that I actually am calculating with my sensory system and not using my conscious brain. I'm just absolutely convinced that that is the way I live, actually. I'm not conscious of most of the things I do. My body's brain, the automatic response is amazing. And to be able to they're sitting there moving their fingers as though they are going through an abacus and coming up with a result because they're moving their fingers. That is profound. I might try to put something like that in my book when it comes to mindfulness. So I'm going to make a note of that, Fred. Thank you very much. All right, going back to reading.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. Here we go back to reading. Let's see.
Yes.
Somebody just dropped something in the chat. Was that you?
That was This is about the idea of the shapes of numbers, how they change.
Yeah, cool.
Yes, I found what I wanted to say.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, because
you keep sharing this. Oh, okay. So thank you. I wanted to say to rebound on what Manu said about 100% efficiency and all that. First class of mathematics starts like this all the time. Mathematics is very rigorous, and we have definitions for everything, and you have to be very careful to use exactly what the definition means and all that. And then you've got a pause, and then after the pause, after the pause between the two parts of the class, you come back, and then the teacher starts to say, put an equation where he uses x and lambda and alpha, and says this x means that and that. And very soon he runs out of symbols and say, okay, I'm going to reuse x. And x in this context mean that, and no more this. And suddenly the whole first part doesn't mean anything anymore, because the whole we're very strict and precise has gone through the window.
Yeah. Agreed.
This is the story of my hate of mathematics, is that they tell you something and they do something else. Is do as I say, not as I do. As I say, not as I do. Always, all the time.
And I have the same issues on philosophy, because the words are used. So many words are used so interchangeably,
Yes.
and it just drives me crazy. This is why the idea of tokens is the idea of a newfangled way to combine words and create a symbol or a hieroglyph of something, right? Okay, cool.
It's a compressed concept.
Don't fall in love too much with tokens. You'll be surprised what they represent.
More reading?
Where are we? Even more powerful? Is that where we are?
Yes.
Okay. Even more powerful than the ability of the abacus to deal easily with large numbers is its embodiment of the concept of zero. In fact, it seems likely that the machine predated the word. The word zero is Italian, short for zefiro, from the Low Latin zephirium, Old French cifre, Arabic cipher, Sanskrit shunya, an empty thing. In the Arabic number system, zero acts as a placeholder, allowing ever larger number, 10, 100, 1000, to be expressed with ease. An empty thing is a powerful device. In spite of, or possibly because of its power, zero as a number arouses suspicion. It is somehow unnatural. Indeed, it is not one of the natural numbers 1, 2, 3. Zero in the abstract is a thorny concept, but an abacus with all bits down is a simple concrete thing, zero. One word something about the language here. Zefiro, for zero, from the Latin zephirium, Old French cifre, Arabic cipher. When you use a phonetic cipher, this is the English word for code, for
cipher. Yeah.
Cipher. Cipher. So that's the origin of cipher.
Yeah. Very cool.
Where am I? I think we need to go to the figures.
Yeah, we ended up with concrete zero. And now we're at the figures.
Yes. Figure 1a, the ascent of bits. The history of the universe can be thought of as a sequence of information processing revolutions, each of which builds on the technology of the previous ones. So we have...
that looks like a sperm cell attacking an egg.
There's a parallel between the evolution of and biological intelligence, and the processing of information and numbers with abacus, by hand, with abacus, and with a book and with a computer. The abacus shows how. Yes, can you move down a little bit, please?
I'm just real interested in these pictures. I mean, we go. This is a
Yes.
sperm. These are sperm cells attacking an egg cell. Here's a DNA molecule. Here's a brain, and this looks like some molecule thing or something, doesn't it? Breakdown of molecules. And then we have figure 1b, the ascent of bits. So this is the ascent of bits 1a, and this is the ascent of bits 1b. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, he draws a parallel with each new step is based on the previous steps.
I don't get where the sperm
Builds upon the previous steps. For instance, you've got DNA, and then you have sexual reproduction, where the combination of male and female, half of the genome, creates more opportunities for development, for evolution, and then development of the brain. Yes.
Okay. So if I read those pictures from left to right, I understand them a little bit better. Okay.
Thank you. The abacus shows how a revolution in information processing cannot be separated from the underlying mechanisms or technology that governs how the information is represented and processed. The information processing technology, that is the abacus, is typically inseparable from the conceptual breakthrough that is zero. Going thousands of years farther back, we find an even greater revolution, writing. The original technology consisted of scratching marks on clay or rock. Writing was almost literally language made concrete. It enabled large-scale social organizations, contracts, scriptures, and books like this one. Over the years, the technologies of writing have progressed from rock to paper to electrons. Each manifestation of writing, from commandment to poem to neon sign, possesses its own variation of the technology for representing words.
May I comment there?
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole host of kind of comments. I mean, it's
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Please go ahead, Joe.
I mean, the whole idea of the written word, I mean, and how that actually fundamentally changes everything, and changes the way we can communicate, how we build on top of information that had existed previous to us, you know, people's ideas, what would work, what hadn't. But there is something that is very important in that, is how information is processed, but the contextual information that it was for which it may have been captured within a point in time, may lead to a distortion of that information. So that's an important part to consider. We have the written word, but we don't necessarily have the context all the time. And so that can distort what is actually being communicated to. So that can be there's an element of noise that starts to exist. So, I mean, the idea of the myth of Thuth, and even the idea of writing and how the written word in general has evolved, even from the idea of hieroglyphics to language itself, to formal syntactical language, you know, that process is a form of information processing that had you know, kind of had that's an evolution within writing that you start to see, which is an important one at that. So yeah, no, I mean, and the idea, the whole myth of Thuth is well, I did not that, but yeah, that's just looking at it from the idea of moving. You could even say, well, we went from clay tablets to whatever was subsequent to that, I guess papyrus or something along those lines. I don't know. There's always the tools themselves. They're different technologies, and they do have different ways of actually impacting their mediums. And the idea of digital is one of those changes. Anyway, I'm done for a moment. It's interesting as hell.
Are you complete?
I'm
Are you
complete.
complete?
Yeah, I can go on for a little bit, but I'm not gonna. I want to hear what other people have to say.
Thank you. Manu, please go ahead.
Well, you got to unmute, Manu. Unmute, please.
I want Steve, can you capture this?
I'm going to
see?
do what I can to capture it. Hold it up a little higher. Things don't work like they used to for me. Okay, hold it up
What
a
do you
little
mean
higher.
by that?
A little higher. Okay, and I've got it. And
Okay, can you share
project.
it?
Yes, I'll be glad to project it. I got to come over here to this. Good, here we go. Whoa.
Thank you, Steve. You have to re-raise your hand, Steve. You had it up
Okay.
and put it there.
All right, I'll raise my hand. Thank you for reminding me. Go ahead, Manu.
Okay, let's put it in a bucket context and in graphics. You see, in the beginning, there's nothing.
What's the
Let's just
beginning?
say in the beginning or whatever, there's me. But that me is something that becomes conscious that it is. That it is. And you are it is because you are in something. You are in the word. And that word is form. I'm in it, me, is formed by something I'm not even conscious. I just see the word. Then that me in it starts seeing like I see rain. I can start counting. So I can put gatekeepers and note that is already secondary to something that is I don't even conscious of it. I can start counting what comes into my cave. So I can put gatekeepers there to each note every time that any of those arrows come in, it notes down. That's when I make sense of any quantity. I'm seeing form things. That's when I say 1, 2, 3, 4 till 9 or something like that. But then what I'm seeing coming in seems to be going away. If it goes away, maybe I can count it, I can deduct it, I can do something, have an idea of it by knowing what is in that I can feel. And that going away, that's where the notion of maybe it goes in a store place. The idea of a cipher as a container of a back burning. But then it continues all the time until I die and my kid is. So indirectly now, I realize that there is a funnel through which this thing goes away and jettisoned. Because my successors will be able to count what I counted and more. Therefore, there is a cipher and there is a meta. Because the meta is something that I cannot count. It's all jettisoned. And the form is what I can count. And therefore, between the two, between the compressive, the form, and the expansive that go I don't know where, there's a node. That is a cipher that takes the side of something that goes out of sight of me and come back to me, turning in one phase of a whole. The phase of a whole is what I see in the form here. That's the phase that I see, and it goes away. But I know that it comes back to me because I can observe it again. So that is how the concept established with a lot of pattern observation and induction into our reasoning. Note that we use deduction and induction at different times. Note that we add arithmetically, 1, 2, 3, and then we generalize expanding at an appropriate time. So that is, to me, is something that is linked intimately to the fundamental binary of what it is. That is, as Fred would say, information is binary, is what I can count and what I cannot count. Because I'm part of it, I have information too. That's what I wanted to share in the form of graphics. Thank you.
Thank you, Manu. Lee, what's your contribution? Go ahead, please.
Well, I am wondering, I have a question. When we were talking about words, I started thinking that many words have been taken the wrong way. A double entendre was happening. And now I'm curious, Manu, do you in your life have double entendres, not just in English, because I know English has them, and also, Fred, do you in French and Chinese have double entendres that could get mixed up in
What is it? Double
double entendre, meaning
double entendre? Yes, that's a French national sport.
yes. So it's French. I was wondering about that. So in Chinese, do you have double entendres in Chinese? And Manu, also,
Okay, to answer that, there's really a lot of double entendre in Chinese because of phonetics. It's a language that is relatively poor in phonetics. There's not so many sounds. So it's fairly easy to create confusion between words by using words sounding the same, and then you can replace them and have a different meaning for something you say. And they do that a lot. Most of the time, I'm cut out of that because my Chinese is not good enough to understand them. But in South China, for instance, where they speak Cantonese, they are really doing this a lot, and mostly with a very, very offensive sentences that can be
Right.
understood both ways. In a politically correct way and in a very politically incorrect way. That's they do that a lot. Yes.
And
Manu.
yes, in Africa, if you go all across, especially the Bantu world, there's always something to say, I mean. People talk with a lot of that in the context. To refix the context of the word that is using, he or she is using. So somebody was talking, there's always that sensitivity to make sure that the two communicating are within the same context in order to minimize the double entendres.
And
That is it. It is loaded. So if you're listening to an African language, you'll be having the impression that there's a lot of repetition, a lot of superfluous.
Oh.
But it is meant to keep the targeted subject of a communication into the context and into getting the final idea that you want to. And that's why that was one of my interpretation where the Ubuntu concept came from. I am because of you. I'm completely dependent on you. So what I do is not what I do, is what we do. Because I took it from you, a cue in the form of a cue or in the form of something that you did, etc., etc. So that it can be cumbersome, but it is a price that you have to pay to communicate effectively. And
So
as Richard will say, you really need to be mindful of the relationships. What are the relationships are in place? Some are overt and some are covert. But you really need to have those in mind when you are communicating.
So in other words, you have had incidences in your life where someone has said something to you and you took it totally wrong and you were offended.
All the time. That is
Really?
that's one of my weaknesses. All the time.
Oh.
So you start to fight, and then you realize that it wasn't. I mean, you are completely out of context.
Well, I know that living in New Hampshire and now me living in Utah, I learned a lot of my young years of English in New Hampshire, and New Hampshire has a dialect that is totally different from English. It is humidity, is humidity.
Humility.
Yeah. And so you have to learn a dialect before you can understand it. And so I'm just more curious to know if the book will reference any of that. So I'm curious. I am done.
Okay, then I guess I'm next on the rack there with hands up.
You've got your.
I muted, thank you. So you're going to mute so I can unmute. Right? So I'm just really impressed by this illustrations that we've seen and how he approaches, how Seth Lloyd approaches language. And yet, if we go back to Native American spirituality and tradition, it is grandmother spider who spun a web, and that web creates a place for the turtle. And they hold that. And if you think of a web as a field, and we go into quantum physics, if you think of a web as a field and grandmother spider is creating all these fields, creating a place for the earth to be, that's more profound than thinking of a spider spinning a web and there's this turtle on a web. In other words, if I take the concepts of Native American awareness and take them metaphorically, they can be applied And it would be absolutely obvious. It would be absolutely opposite to what this guy talks about, because he talks about the development of language and information from basic elements into computer language, and Native Americans see that there was language before there were words. And John chapter 1, verse 1 says, in the beginning was the word, and that word is in Greek is logos, which means pattern. So basically, John 1 1, in the beginning was the word, is the same as saying in the beginning was grandmother spider. Saying the same freaking thing. This is in my book. If one looks at the metaphor of it and doesn't take it literally. And to take it one step further, in Australia, the Australian Aborigines hold that every being is a song. That you are a song, I am a song. And as I live my life, I'm just doing verses in my song. So this idea of language and pattern, it comes back to our current argument about consciousness. Is consciousness fundamental to the universe? And Native Americans with Grandmother Spider would tell you, and with Australian Aborigines, they would tell you that consciousness was fundamental, and everything comes out of the language. And we didn't learn about language. We didn't build language. It was there all along, and we slowly discovered it. So I just thought I would add to the conversation with that, and I'm complete.
Thank you, Joe.
No, I mean, actually, I mean, Steve, you actually just captured everything that I really would say. So, I mean, I'm not going to build on that. Specifically, that's where I was going to go, is the idea of the beginning of the word. What was the word? But I did put something in the chat, as the idea that how double entendres actually can be used to manipulate. And that it's used as a form of propaganda. An example, and I just looked up one. But so this is another idea of distinguishing the signal and the noise itself. But I also appreciated the way Manu, what you put on the table as far as how the idea of observability and what you can observe and what you can name, and how you can actually, that can lead to certain types of quantification. But there's also something that's whenever you come up with a concept that you can name, even if you're in it and you're expressing what's outside of it, there's something lost in that process. And understanding that is critical. And that's something that I'm writing about. So this is the idea of being in and looking out.
Are you complete?
Yeah, I'm complete. Sorry. That was really interesting.
Are we ready, Fred, to continue reading?
I think it's time for us to part ways and start doing our takeaways. So, Richard, would you like to start with telling us how you're feeling? What's your takeaway for today?
Yes, sorry, it was muted. I would. I've been sitting here quiet. So two things, one at the very front end and one just recently now in terms of in the beginning. At the front end, I was intrigued with information processing revolution. And in the spirit, if you want, of Thomas Kuhn and his idea of scientific revolution, I'm curious as to why revolution was chosen as the way of describing information processing. which in that context, I also think information processing is methodological. And there's been allusions to it throughout the conversation that it's methodological without a context. And we need the context in order to do the processing. But again, I'm curious as to why revolution was chosen as the word, because it implies that there's some kind of resistance to the evolution, if you want, of something. And so it made me wonder why revolution instead of evolution. And at the very end, I was intrigued with this idea of in the beginning is the word. And in that sense, the word means to me an event of some kind, a something. So again, I'm curious as to why even that biblical sort of quote wasn't talking about in the beginning was the whole. And I've just kind of looked it up, and it said if you change the word to whole, you get a whole different kind of meaning, and you begin to see that the whole comes before the separation, comes before the parts. So there's something about perhaps this text and maybe others that has trouble thinking the way Fuller does, has trouble being able to think from the whole to the parts rather than the notion of the parts to the whole. So that's my pondering, that's my sort of wondering, and that's what I take away from this evening. More curiosity in terms of how words are used, like revolution or the word in the beginning, and my own query as to why were those words chosen as opposed to some other words that might have a different meaning. So that's my takeaway. Lee, how are you feeling? What's your takeaway?
I'm kind of excited about today. I need to read all of the messages that everybody wrote in the texts because the beginning of it I didn't understand. But at the end, it became more legible, more profound, more part of me. And I am really, really looking forward to finding out more about this book. It's kind of got me hanging like a doll on a string at this point. And I want to be able to pull myself up on that string and be able to grasp it a whole lot better. Fred, how are you feeling?
Fred should be last.
Oh, yes, you're right. Manu, how are you feeling? And what is your takeaway?
You're muted, Manu.
Okay, I was saying that I'm feeling good. I think that these are what we discussed is quite important because we never make time to really dive into those things and see how impactful they can be over the long run or over a run on our lives. And as a parting way, I was trying to see how that things to Kelly's formula. I wrote sometime that wisdom is dream time pragmatism time humility. And I say stupidity is hubris. So I was going to apply and modifying that. I say words, I take Kelly's formula, words are radiative. So it's dreams. Then I be pragmatic by counting, by seeing what is relevant. So by subtracting some quantities. So from that is um, being pragmatic, knowing what to put in the back burner. So, like you call it sifting, like on a threshing hole. You're sifting things, the grains and whatever, and then the whole of that result, you embed it in the symbol. That is wisdom. Wisdom is the ability to remember that, this is, when you take, like a very wise Indian or African or whatever, is the guy that is can remember that there used to be this, that in this context gave us such a result. Maybe we can try it and maybe it can work again. So that is the symbol. And then the denominator part of it, that is the focus, to me, is the power of discernment. Is to really magnifying that ability to say, hey, this is a vitamin, as opposed to the fiber. This is the active ingredient. Let's concentrate it and magnify a result, because we put it small, we focus on it, and we put it in this combination, and it makes us explode in terms of direction of results where we want to go in. And I've always finding it very, very practical to try to draw. It can be, sometimes it can just be crazy, to draw what I understood in a discussion and put it into that context to magnify the result or whatever I'm applying or trying to apply into doing with this. So that's my biggest takeaway. Otherwise, I'm humble, I'm grateful, and I'm thankful. Richard had been, right? So Joe, how do you feel?
Yeah.
What do you take away? Have you been?
Yeah, I mean, I think no. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
this is there's a lot to take away from this session. I mean, a lot, quite a bit. Just to Richard's, point about the idea in the beginning, going from the whole to parts. The beginning is the eternal. So
Didn't
that's
say
everything.
that,
Well, it is. That's what I mean. So the idea,
but it didn't say that. It says the word.
the beginning is eternal. That's eternal, not the word. The word is the part.
So in the
So the
universe,
word,
in the universe, the
universe.
word.
So the universe. And so then the universe speaks the word. And so that's going from the whole to the part. So go ahead, Steve,
I'm going to have more on that very topic, so go ahead and do your takeaways.
Yeah, no, so it's the idea of the source, the source of all things. So from the idea that a thought is something that is internal that becomes external. So yes, you're going from the whole to the part. And
it's almost like in the beginning.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. Well, it is a loop. That's another point. So the idea of the subject, and the object relationship. If you speak the word, that's the word is the object. And that's the system calling on itself. So the idea of the word being the son, that's the whole concept. So the father son is that whole relationship with
Yeah.
100% God and 100% human. That's the whole point, is that it's a self-reference loop. So
And Father and Son and God are entity words, not relationship
right,
words.
right, yeah, and we're using words to describe. That's the whole point, in a way, that there's a limit to logical systems too. So, but yeah, we're using words to describe eternity. So, but there is a whole to parts relationship there. Without, I think that that's pretty clear. And the other thing, as far as the evolution and revolution, is that one is just fundamentally a revolution is basically replacing an existing system.
Yeah.
So
There's a
I
way
mean,
that it's replaced. Evolution is also doing the same thing.
right, and it's doing it over a period of time, right? So that it's not necessarily, it's just incremental, and that's
Yeah.
and it's being
Yeah.
adaptive.
One's
Whereas
a fight and the other one isn't.
I wouldn't say that then, because that would actually counter the paradigm shift that you were referring to.
No.
Um,
Look
so
at what Kuhn says about scientific revolutions and why he chose the word revolution instead of evolution.
yeah, no, I mean, there was part of an economic aspect of it, because he said there were basically, you reached a boundary and that the old system had to be overtaken by the new one. But it was a revolution of one system replacing the other. So, and that's something, even when you think about it in terms of like environmental ideas, that one system's overtaking the old one because of the absolute need, and that it reaches a breaking point, and that is actually in line with what Kuhn was saying. So, but either way, I think that there were a lot of interesting. I think the looking at the patterns and how information itself, um, you know, different mediums that we've used in order to communicate ideas is, essential to really understanding what the change that actually then occurs. And the reason I appreciate the book is that thus far, and everybody's contributions within that, is for that reason, is that we're starting to see is like these there are different mediums in which information is being processed. And what were the changes that fundamentally occurred? The written word fundamentally changed the way people evolved, to be quite honest, both physically and mentally. And so, in the sense that even memory wise, like, so that the way that was one of the concerns that technically Plato had with the written word. So is, or that's the whole point of the myth of Thuth. But anyway, I think that if we're looking at these mediums, then we can apply them to today. And I think one of the things that we look at it through a idea of scalability and time, and how fast these things, these iterations then start to occur. And then we have a better idea of the impact that they will have in the short term and long term. And I think that assessing these through the ideas of principles, as Steve was saying a little bit earlier, I thought was very, very important. I thought also Manu had a lot of. I was actually going to ask if you could. I don't know if Steve, you could send this out a little earlier, because actually there's a part there that Manu was saying at the end that I could actually listen to again. But I know that might be a little bit of a challenge. But nonetheless, I'm not trying to ask you to do anything more, because I know you got a lot on your plate. So anyway, I also found that the discussion also about change, how change occurs, even when we were talking about financial systems, and even putting those into context, that also was very helpful. Because again, we see what an overreaction would be like, what was with this idea of Sarbanes Oxley. We just overreacted. We acted, in a way that didn't. Not that the idea of the regulation wasn't well intended or even good in certain ways. It's just a question of we didn't have a sense of proportion because we didn't necessarily think about it in terms of the way this book is thinking about information. And really putting it into context. And so anyway, so there's a lot of, I have several takeaways. But anyway, I'll pass to you, Steve.
Well, I've enjoyed the comments down here. Fred and Manu talking about evolution, revolution. Fred talking about the definition of revolution and how that all relates to what you were saying. Richard, I have something else to say. I'm going to respond to this first, I think. Listen, I have got to apologize to Manu. He has more than one time asked for this archive and for me to send out the links. And I have been, with my computers that I'm going through, I'm using Word 2010, Word 2013. I've got 10 Windows 10 on one machine, Windows 11 on another machine, and I just really have nothing is working right. And so I want to apologize, Mike. It really takes me a lot more time to do things than it used to. I used to be really good, and now I'm just really good. No, no. Anyway, so Manu, I do apologize, and I'll tell you what. I found selfishly, I went back at the transcript and actually found that a transcript. I went through here it is right here. I took my takeaway last week and I took the transcript and broke it out and started looking at my takeaway and what I said. And I discovered that I didn't say all that I thought I said. And so this is one of my problems is I don't communicate very well. This is the reason why the book is taking so long. I'm pretty good in a live seminar to get stuff going. But in terms of explaining things that people don't understand, I'm not that good at. And this transcript proves it. So here's my commitment, Manu and Joe. My commitment is that I'm going to get the invitation for each week out within 24 hours after the event. So I can't, like on Saturday night, it's 11:30. I'm going to wind down, and in fact, it's 11. It'll be 11:30 before I get off here, and I want to wind down. So on Sunday, I will send the day following our weekend deal. Within 24 hours, I will send out the invitation, which has a link to the previous recording. That way, while the conversation's hot, Joe, you can look back quickly and see what you said and what went on and what the discussion was about. I think that will facilitate.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
especially considering how busy you are.
That'll help everybody. And Manu, I can show you my beautiful little catalog over here and how wonderful the pictures are and how everything's going to be so cool. But it ain't out, and so it's just BS until I get it done. So I apologize, Manu, for that. And I will be sending everything out within 24 hours. And I have these comments have been really powerful here. And I stuffed something in here. I love Gemini AI because it gives links, like amazing links. Let me share with you guys what I like to have Grok and ChatGPT talk to me, but they're not as good at giving me the sources for what they're saying. So I just had a big argument with Gemini over this whole idea of the term logos and what it actually means, because Richard is absolutely correct. He did he looked it up, and Christianity has so screwed up what Jesus actually said that I'm not surprised you had a problem. So I put in, my first thing was, okay, define logo. So it went through this reason, principle, everything. And then it broke down logos and it talked about Hellenistic philosophy and Jewish philosophy. And then it came up and said, then I argued and I said, well, listen, isn't one good translation of logos pattern? And it said pattern is an insightful and philosophically accurate choice. So like I had to argue with the damn thing to get to agree with me to see what my point was. And then it talks about the organizing principle, and it gives up with these different little dynamics of God's thing and that thing. And it gives really cool footnotes on where it comes up with this shit, including Facebook, which scares the hell out of me. So then I asked it another question. I said, well, doesn't my interpretation of logos as pattern allow for the concept of organizing matter to create something from something rather than something from nothing? And then it agrees with me again. It says, yes, your interpretation, oh, where'd it go? Yes, your interpretation of logos as organizing pattern aligns perfectly with the concept of creatio ex materia, creation out of pre-existing matter, which is a whole thing, by the way, Richard, rather than creatio ex nihilo, which is something out of nothing. And so then it finally agrees with me. Then it goes through and it talks about theological tension of John 1 and how, and this whole theological tension is created by a bunch of.
Could you go back up to that one, the ex
Wow.
nihilo, really
Yeah.
quickly? Where is this? Oh yeah.
And so then it goes in and starts arguing with the way Christians have interpreted John's writing. And one of my big things in my book is that John is so freaking misunderstood. You know, there are four gospels, but three of them are synoptic gospels. And then there's John, which is just
Right.
insane, right? And that's who's the guy who says the logos, but he also talks about Jesus arguing, you accuse me, you want to kill me for saying I'm God. Your own scriptures tell you are gods. And then John explains that each of us are branches on a vine. So we're all fractals of the vine of that Jesus is. And then Jesus even goes one step further in John chapter 15 and says, look, you are no longer my servants because, and I'm going to get this wording down, you're no longer my servants because you understand the business of God. You understand how it works. Therefore, I call you my friends. And so this whole idea of the divine nature of human consciousness and human beingness is like it's just not acknowledged. And this whole idea of creation from a whole. So I want to argue, Richard, that the word logos means pattern, which means whole, and that grandmother spider, the cool thing about grandmother spider is she has many spiders making many webs, which is exactly what quantum field theory is all about. So, all right. So that's my rant for now.
I'll say this really
Yeah.
quickly. It is impressive that it had Philo from Alexandria in there. I was thinking that the whole time. Because yeah, that's one of the most important parts that's actually never thought about.
Yeah.
In an attempt to try to explain the organizing principle.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys, thanks for letting me rant and rave. This is really cool. I have a conversation going on that we're taking way too much freaking time to read through this book. But at the same time, I love learning about abacus today. Fred, you're sharing with me about finger. I have an autistic granddaughter, and she has a tendency to fidget, and I just wonder what's going on with her whole brain and everything. So I love the abacus story. I love the motor sensory memory, because nobody does extreme sports thinks about what they're doing. Their body just does it. And I think that I couldn't stop sharing now. And I think that there's more to be said about the brain being everywhere in the body than just in the head, which of course is Western, and of course Asian Oriental concept is that the brain is in the belly button area, And now modern science says that we actually have a brain in our gut and a brain in our heart. So we actually have three concentration of neurons: brain, heart, and gut. But nobody's counting. When I play guitar, I don't think about a damn thing. I just play my freaking guitar. So we live in an age of a fullness of everything, and that means everything can be confusing. And if I have to argue with AI for it to finally agree with me, think about what the world's going to do with AI. This thing is going to turn into total chaos. Anyway, I'm so thrilled about our conversation. This whole idea of programming the universe. Wow, how cool is that? And Fred, thank you for conducting and organizing the thing. Fred, how are you feeling? And what are your takeaways tonight?
Thank you, Steve. I'm feeling pretty good. And one thing first. That chapter looked like we were going to breeze through it, not much to say. Everybody knows about the history of zero and all these things. And then today we just had so many rich discussions about nearly every single point in the few paragraphs we read. It's frankly, it's amazing. I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting, okay, let's get done with this one and move into into the next chapter. But it was really rich, and we all in the Wednesday group, and we can see that the Wednesday group, the book is bigger, and it's 2 columns, and it's tougher to read because it's not written as easily to read as this one. So it's going to take a hell of a longer time than reading the universe or programming the universe. So feel good about it. Let's take the garden path every single weekend if we want. It's all okay. We're still going to beat them at the gates. That's at the arrival gate. So we can spend the time we want there. I wanted to say that revolution means circular rotation, a turn of the wheel in physics. My takeaway, my main takeaway here is that revolutions are attached to their technologies. This is a very powerful point, in my opinion. And it's the same point. I mean, there's a parallel to draw with a word is attached to its definition, and the naming of things allows us to have power over them, a handle to manipulate things, and also a handle to look them up, search, and have some power over things. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is it's a Zen way to look at naming things, which is don't name things. Do not name things. Because once you have named them, you can no more apprehend them. You can only comprehend them. Which is quite an interesting thing for me, especially in the context of revolutions. That's it. That's all I have for you today. And yeah. And I'll stop here because I see Joe needs his bed and his pillow immediately.
Yeah, I did.
I'm
You
saying
just
happy
saw it.
Father's Day to all of us because we all had fathers. And I'm glad your fathers put up with you and didn't kill you earlier, and that you're still on the call.
The only universe that matters is the one where your father did not kill you.
That's exactly.
Right. That's right. I'm going to agree with that.
You're muted, Manu.
What Fred said there is very profound. Before we can count, we are sheltered by something that could crush us.
Yeah.
You know, when we say your parent can literally decide that they have a decision, the power to say you are not going to be.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very important.
Lionesses protect.
And I
their
like that.
cubs.
Thank you, Fred. That is very important.
Yeah. Lionesses protect their cubs from their fathers.
Okay, Lee, please go ahead.
I have a little statement. I have a little statement. I have a little painted sign in my house, and it says, "The only reason why you're alive is that you gave me grandchildren." And that's it.
Now we're going to go exploring the time travel series.
Exactly right. Exactly right. We complete?
All right. Thanks,
Yeah,
everybody.
right.
See you
Lee.
Wednesday.
Thank
Lee.
you.
Lee,
Yes.
my wife is here listening to you.
Oh, she
And
is.
she's been, you know, she likes that.
So,
She-
so
good.
she likes that. What do you say?
she should
Say
should
something.
really.
I say hallelujah to that. Hallelujah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we
Yeah.
want to say hello to your wife. She should come and
No, I'm in my bed clothes.
I was thinking, thank goodness, because it's
It's
five, what,
okay.
6
It's okay.
a.m.
It's
there.
only recorded.
It's like 6 or
Yeah.
7
Just show
a.m.
your face. You can hide, you can say
Hello.
Oh,
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 hi.
thank you.
Hello.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye all.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, I see. Oh, okay.